next day or next week, based on your perception, interest, and profiles, automatically the Amazon recommends the products that you want to be interested in, right? So these are all some use cases where we are putting this machine learning into picture. How it's happening? So that is our next question. And also this banking sectors also detect the fraud transactions in real-time environments. So all we converted into digital transaction, right? So we are not handling cash for past 3 years. So again, after the demonetization has happened, so no one is taking cash in hand and handling the cash. All are going for Google Pay, Phone Pay, and all automatic credit card and debit card transactions, and through online we are doing the fund transfer, right? So since we had converted into digital transactions with credit card, debit card, Phone Pay, Google Pay, and all, there will be lots of number of frauds which will be available in the online. So that we have to detect the fraud transactions which is happening online. How we can do that? So machine learning helps us to find and detect the fraud transactions which is available in the banking industry. So this is one of the use case, right? And how all we are doing all these use cases with the machine learning? That's our next question. Yes, that is through types of machine learning. So when we are discussing about day-to-day life applications in machine learning like Amazon, Fitbit, and intelligent systems and banking industry, and that's all happening through this machine learning algorithms and approaches. So when we are discussing about these types of machine learning, so we are having supervised, unsupervised, and reinforcement machine learning methods via which it's happening. So what's actually supervised, unsupervised, and reinforcement machine learning methods? So when we are discussing about the supervised are task-driven, and unsupervised is data-driven, and reinforcement learning methods are learned from this stage. So these are all the three famous machine learning approaches which is available in the field via which we are doing all this day-to-day activities like Fitbit or intelligent systems or banking transactions or Amazon recommendations and all, right? So what is this types of machine learning that we have? So when we are discussing about supervised learning, the supervised learning method go for two methods, important methods. One is classification and one is regression. Right? So what is classification? So classification is identity fraud detection, image classification, customer retention, and diagnosis. So when you are going for classification method, supervised classification method, so you'll put all the supervised machine learning methods for use cases like identity of fraud detection, image classification, customer retention, and diagnosis. So when you're going for supervised learning, especially for regression, so you can put this regression in use cases like weather forecasting, market forecasting, estimating life expectancy, population growth prediction. So you can put all this supervised regression methods in these use cases like weather forecasting, market forecasting, estimating life expectancy, and population growth prediction. So when you're going for unsupervised learning method, so we are having two important approaches. One is dimensional detection, second one is clustering. So if you have taken this clustering method in unsupervised method, so you can go for recommendation systems like Amazon recommendation, targeted marketing, and customer segmentation. So these are all the use cases where we are putting this clustering into picture. And one more algorithm in unsupervised is dimensional detection. So when we are using this dimensional detection, you can go for the use cases like big data visualization, meaningful compression, structure discovery, and future elicitation. Last but not least, the reinforcement machine learning method is the third method of machine learning. So we can put this reinforcement learning method for game, skill acquisition, learning tasks, robot navigations, and real-time decisions. So these are all the use cases where we are putting these types of machine learning, supervised, unsupervised, and reinforcement learning methods into picture. So we will see in depth into the supervised, unsupervised, and reinforcement learning method. So what is supervised learning method? So in a supervised learning method, an artificial intelligence system is presented with data which is labeled and we call it as it's only for structured data. So when you are decided to go for supervised learning algorithm, so you have to have a data set which is structured, which is labeled, right? So we have to have the goal is to approximate the mapping function, and so as well when you have to have the new input data and you can be able to predict the output variables y. If you are having the input data x, you'll be able to predict the output variables y. That means you have to have a structured label data and correct label has to be there. If it is there, you can go for supervised machine learning algorithm. And one of the example is mails, right? So spam and non-spam mails. So every one of you are having Google Gmail mail ID, right? Gmail or your Dean's College corporate mail ID or Yahoo mail ID or Rediff mail ID, Hotmail or so you are having mail ID, right? So if you are getting some mails which you are not having contacts, automatically that mail goes to spam. So categorizing or classifying the spam and non-spam mails is one of the examples that we will give for supervised learning method, right? So when we are getting a bulk mails, so you have to categorize what are all spam mails, what are all not spam mails. So this is one of the examples that I will give for supervised machine learning algorithm. And in that, I already told you two important methods in supervised is classification and regression, right? And in classification, we are having this one example, having some pictures like duck and ducks, right? So you want to classify what are all ducks and what are all not ducks. So for that, you have to go for an algorithm, classification algorithm. And in regression analysis, you have to go for cause and effect. So if you are going for cause and effect, so that is done with the help of regression methods, in which are having all these concepts like linear regression, polynomial, SVM, support vector regression, decision trees, random forest, right regression, lasso, and logistics, LR. So these are all the classification and regression methods where we are putting into machine learning into picture, where only if you are having the structured data, labeled data, right? The second one is unsupervised learning method. Unlabeled data, right? So then it's better to go for unsupervised learning, right? So this unsupervised learning, again, it is an artificial intelligence based system as a subset of AI, and it is for uncategorized or unstructured data. And we're having this machine learning algorithms which have this unstructured data, which will be able to go for some predicting, and will be able to go for subjective analysis. Right? On the right hand side, we're having the picture. So this unsupervised learning method where we are using in real-time environment, right? So you're having a potential customer, right? So he is able to, we want to sell the product. He is having, we are using these clustering algorithms, right? And we are going to go for categorizing the customer base into four types, right? We are having four types: black, blue, and light blue, dark blue, and red, right? So based on the behavior, we are not having any labeled data. We are not having any structured data, but we know that customer base. Based on that, we are going for clustering, and we are grouping into four categories, and based on their perception, we are putting the discounts, and we are selling the product that we are identified customer group. So we are categorizing the customer based on the behaviors, but we are not having an structured data, but we are having only unstructured data, unlabeled data. So we have to categorize it, we have to cluster it, and we have to divide, and we have to compare it. And it's one way of doing marketing, targeted marketing, right? An example, unsupervised learning, we are having the pictures on the right hand side, ducks and not ducks. So we are going to classify it. So we are not having any labeled data, it's unlabeled. So we have to categorize it, and that is only through unsupervised learning, right? And in this, already I told you, we are having two famous technologies and unsupervised methods. One is clustering and associations, right? Association is one of the best example I used to give. So I told you, Amazon, Snapdeal, and Flipkart. Once you purchase through Amazon, Snapdeal, and Flipkart, automatically you are getting some recommendation. That is through only association, right? So the products which you may be interested in, automatically will get some messages, right? Or SMSs. So that's association. And clustering is categorizing. You just see the first picture. So we are having mobile phones, or grouping mobile phones as customer base. So we are categorizing a clustering into three customer base. One is pink color or fluorescent color. One is light blue and dark blue, right? So this is happening. This is one way of doing unsupervised learning. And second method one is the reinforcement learning method. The reinforcement learning method is for gaming, where we are putting this artificial intelligence into a picture, and we are going to learn from the agents, and the agent learns without intervention from the human, right? And these concepts we can put it in the games and game playing and all, right? So this is one of the advancements and third type of machine learning algorithms, and we can put all this into dynamic programming concepts. And with the rewards and states, we'll be able to learn it, and we can go for some use cases, right, with the help of reinforcement learning method. And this is the third advancements of machine learning. And third three types is supervised, unsupervised, and reinforcement learning methods. And examples. This is an example, game example, right? You just see the diagram. So we are having two paths. One is water path, another one is fire path, right? So you can select any one, two options. If you are selecting water path, you will get some reward. And if you are selected fire path, you will get some punishments or debit points and credit points, right? If it had chosen the water path, it will be safe and you will get some points. If you are select fire path, you will get some punishments, or your points will be reduced, right? So this is one example. It's a game like online-based games that we are using nowadays in 2021. So this is one of the examples of reinforcement learning mechanisms, right? And how we are doing this machine learning methods? So it's a sequential step or process for doing any activities, either supervised or unsupervised or reinforcement methods. So you ought to have a problem definition. So you ought to have a hypothesis, data extraction and collection, and data explanation and modeling, and finally you ought to go for deployment, right? So these are all the sequential steps that you ought to have for any use case, either you are going for supervised or unsupervised or reinforcement methods. So you ought to define the problem where we are putting your machine learning into the picture, and you have to set the hypothesis. Then you have to collect the data and you have to pre-process it, and that we call it as data pre-processing. So once data pre-processing is happened, so you have to go for exploratory data analysis and transformation. Then finally you design the model, and in that you have to go for test and train data sets, and you test the data sets with sample and train it for a common data sets, and finally deploy it and go for implementation. So these are all the steps you ought to have for building a machine learning model for your use case that can be applied either using supervised or unsupervised or reinforcement machine learning methods. Right? So before going into the lots of applications, let me play a small video on where we are putting this machine learning picture in 2021. Please be in line.
Machine learning has improved our lives in a number of wonderful ways. Today, let's talk about some of these. I'm Rahul from Simply Learn, and these are the top 10 applications of machine learning. First, let's talk about virtual personal assistants. Google Assistant, Alexa, Cortana, and Siri. Now, we've all used one of these at least at some point in our life. Let's talk about some of these. I'm Rahul from Simply Learn, and these are the top 10 applications of machine learning. First, let's talk about virtual personal assistants. Google Assistant, Alexa, Cortana, and Siri. Now, we've all used one of these at least at some point in our lives. Now, these help improve our lives in a great number of ways. For example, you could tell them to call someone. You could tell them to play some music. You could tell them to even schedule an appointment. So how do these things actually work? First, they record whatever you're saying, send it over to a server, which is usually in a cloud, decode it with the help of machine learning and neural networks, and then provide you with an output. So if you've ever noticed that these systems don't work very well with the internet, that's because the server couldn't be contacted. Next, let's talk about traffic predictions. Now say I wanted to travel from Buckingham Palace to Lord's Cricket Ground. The first thing I would probably do is to get on Google Maps. So, search it. And let's put it here. So here are the paths you should take to get to Lord's Cricket Ground. Now here the map is a combination of red, yellow and blue. Now the blue regions signify a clear road, that is you won't encounter traffic there. The yellow indicate that they're slightly congested and red means they're heavily congested. Let's look at the map, a different version of the same map, and here, as I told you before, red means heavily congested, yellow means slow moving and blue means clear. So how exactly is Google able to tell you that the traffic is clear, slow moving or heavily congested? So this is with the help of machine learning and with the help of two important measures. First is the average time that's taken on specific days at specific times on that route. The second one is the real-time location data of vehicles from Google Maps and with the help of sensors. Some of the other popular map services are Bing Maps, Maps.me, and here we go. Next up, we have social media personalization. So say I want to buy a drone and on Amazon and I want to buy a DJI Mavic Pro. The thing is it's close to 1 lakh, so I don't want to buy it right now. But the next time I'm on Facebook, I'll see an advertisement for the product. Next time I'm on YouTube, I'll see an advertisement. Even on Instagram, I'll see an advertisement. So here, with the help of machine learning, Google has understood that I'm interested in this particular product. Hence, it's targeting me with these advertisements. This is also with the help of machine learning. Let's talk about email spam filtering. Now, this is that's in my inbox. Now, how does Gmail know what's spam and what's not spam. So Gmail has an entire collection of emails which have already been labeled as spam or not spam. So after analyzing this data, Gmail is able to find some characteristics like the word lottery or winner. From then on, any new email that comes to your inbox goes through a few spam filters to decide whether it's spam or not. Some of the popular spam filters that Gmail uses is content filters, header filters, general blacklist filters, and so on. Next, we have online fraud detection. Now, there are several ways that online fraud can take place. For example, there's identity theft, where they steal your identity, fake accounts, where these accounts only last for how long the transaction takes place and stop existing after that, and man-in-the-middle attacks, where they steal your money while the transaction is taking place. The feed-forward neural network helps determine whether a transaction is genuine or fraudulent. So what happens with feed-forward neural networks are that the outputs are converted into hash values, and these values become the inputs for the next round. So for every real transaction that takes place, there's a specific pattern. A fraudulent transaction would stand out because of the significant changes that it would cause with the hash values. Stock market trading